All right, so we're here. We have ourselves another Tuesday primaries, and I mean, as I predicted, maybe not the supporters of Bernie Sanders. He came up short in terms of let's go here actually numbers. Looks like he may end up getting, as I shot this video, a couple of states, but certainly when it's all said and done, mainly because he won Michigan, or Sanders lost Michigan and Biden won Michigan. It's he came up short. Sanders did, that is. So what this is showing us is what I've said, other folks have said, but I don't think people understand this. Social media is something that is very, very, very popular among certain subcultures and demographics, people my age and younger. And I'm not saying that people older aren't, but when we talk about people that are highly active, like on social, like let's say Instagram, Twitter, and stuff of that nature, it inflates what reality actually is. Now, the issue with this is that a lot of companies, and even when it comes to political projections, they pay attention to that, and they pay too much attention to that because they think that it represents, dare I say, the reality. And it doesn't. And by reality, I mean, like, let's say the thought process, the positions of the general public. The general public doesn't really operate like that. Now, that's not to say that you just shouldn't pay attention to Twitter or Instagram and it can't be a useful tool. I've obviously been able to use this. But you got to take it with a grain of salt in certain affairs and certain things, because it can distort what the way the general populace sees things. Like when you look at the percentage of people that are very, very active, it's like very active on certain forms of social media, it's a rather insignificant, statistically insignificant portion of the population, general population. So just because you see something actively being shared, a position actively being adopted, a candidate of this nature like Sanders, who is very supported by folks my age and younger, and people that are very active on social media, they'll get all the retweets and stuff like that. But then when it's put to the test against other people that obviously, and it includes people that obviously don't, maybe or not as active on these forms of social media, what you get is what you get. Now people confused. They're like, wait a minute, we got all the retweets. We had chicks saying "Okay, Boomer" with shirts and doing songs and stuff on TikTok. Bernie shirts has 1 million something views. Statistically insignificant. Now, the reason I wanted to kind of bring it back to some of the things that I've talked about before, because generally speaking, it's ironically enough, these people tend to be of the same types, right? These people that, like the SJWs of the world, that I make videos even talking about, so a lot of them are Bernie Sanders supporters. And they keep falling for these people that try to appeal to these types, or think that, oh, well, these people are very active. Seems like this is the route that we want to go. We should go because we are going to appeal to them. They're paying way too much attention to what these folks are saying. Anybody with half a brain, I at least think, knew that there's this. It just happened in 2016. We just saw it. Okay, we already saw this before, but this idea that everybody, just because, he parades around these socialistic ideals, kumbaya, I'm going to help everybody, going to save everybody, everybody's going to then turn out and go vote for it. And because the blue check marks told them to, it seems like, man, Bernie is very active in booking bands and stuff, right, for these rallies, and they still hold the L. you got to take social media, definitely among these types, you got to take it with a grain of salt, excuse me. Because that's just what it is. It's not really representative of the reality of the situation. Like, a lot of people just they're not necessarily on this. Obviously, you already saw this going into 2016 when he lost to Hillary Clinton. Now, I'm of the opinion, not of the opinion, they're both crooks. Let's make no mistake. Both of them are pieces of garbage as far as I'm concerned. But this idea that the blue check marks and the folks actively on social media are going to just sway people into voting for somebody or supporting something, like in other cases such as what I talk about, like you see, blue check marks and all the comics. Comics is a great example of this. You take something like Birds of Prey, which seems like a comic book media in this case. Take something like Birds of Prey, right? Or even Charlie's Angels, another one, where they seem like they made these specifically in terms of how they market it to. They made it for these types, right? These uber social justice active social media types. And the Yas, Queen, Slay, pronouns, bio, those types. And both of those bombed. And the folks that they marketed to, I mean that ironically enough, they didn't even go to support it. But they don't show up in the numbers that they anticipate. Because it's not like that, man. Like, it's like if you pay attention to social media alone, definitely when it comes to these types, your view of the reality is going to be distorted. Okay? That's what it is. Your view of reality is going to be distorted. It is not honest. It is not representative of the entire landscape. Definitely when it comes to something like this. And other things that I like to discuss, like comic book media and stuff. You guys are going to learn to stop trying to appeal to these types, or more so take it, just understand. It's no one thing to appeal. It's another thing to understand that appeal and what that necessarily means. Like, if you are going to try to appeal to them, it may make a little more sense to these, like, let's say, social justice type, SJW types. It would make sense not to appeal to them by alienating the groups that they claim to want to be in opposition to. Those are potential customers. Those are potential supporters. And trying to be entirely dependent on this very loud statistical minority is a mistake. It's a mistake. These folks may be active. They may get the retweets. They may have all these like social media influencers, right? And blue check marks and actors and actresses and all of these types, right? And content creators and all of these folks are Bernie. Dude, y'all are statistically, when it comes to the general landscape of America, let's say that, are insignificant. Now, they won't admit that because it seems, if you just go on Instagram, you go on Twitter, it's like, man, these guys really got all this support. Anything Bernie says, hundreds of thousands of likes. But then you think about that numbers, hundreds of thousands of likes. Even if he gets 1 million likes, there's more people in my metroplex than that. It's 300-something million plus people in America, right? It's just not synonymous, or it doesn't really tell you the entire picture. So one of the things that I've learned with social media as well, it's you got to take it, dealing with certain groups. It doesn't mean that you ignore it, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's like, is it really, is the question that you should be asking. Because guys like myself saw this coming a mile away. I've been talking about this. Like, it's funny, all the memes and all the stuff that I used to share out, and the articles that I've done, the videos I've done, are just as irrelevant in 2015 and 2016. They're just as relevant now as they were back then. Because it's the same old story. It's this crook going around swindling you guys into donating all of this money, going to lose an election, claiming that he's anti-establishment, only to go support the most establishment person that he can possibly support Hillary Clinton this time, he'll bow. He's already admitted it. I already did a video on it. He already admitted that he'll go and support Joe Biden. Now, that's aside from the point. I'll admit that. That's just me telling you he's a crook, because he's a crook. Joe Biden's a crook. Both of them's a crook. Both suck. But the whole entire point is that you got to take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. They don't run. These weirdos do not run the world. They may think they do. They may think they should run it, but they don't run. They don't run the world. And I'll end on this note. For folks that are like libertarians and stuff like myself, I'll also admit statistically insignificant. It should give you some sort of hope in terms of just because you see a lot of it. Definitely if you're my age, you're in your 20s or younger. And, we grew up on the social media era, so we're very active. And we see this, we see all of our associates and all of this stuff, or people that we like as content creators and stuff, and they go support these candidates, or they have this sort of ideology that they follow. And it gets a lot of retweets when they signal and, social justice, all like. You see that isn't necessarily representative of the reality. This is why I always encourage you guys, encourage libertarians all the time, to go, you're going to be, as opposed to voting or something like that, you're going to be more influential and putting emphasis on the fact that you already are involved in some sort of subculture. That's your ticket to relate to someone outside of the realm of politics. My ultimate goal is to rid the world of politics. It may not happen in my lifetime, but that's the ultimate goal of libertarianism, right? This is what it is. So, with that being said, just give you some sort of hope. Get on social media, you see all this stuff like, man, it's not looking good. Doesn't mean you can't be influential. And just because you are loud on social media does not mean that you are generally influencing the entire world, or let's say the entire country. Just because people on Twitter co-sign you does not mean that everybody, or even the vast majority of people, or the majority of people at all, are going to co-sign you in what it is that you believe in.